I've been informed by a texter that the debate on Fox tomorrow night starts at 8 o'clock Central. That's good. It'll give me plenty of time to get home, get my bowl of popcorn and my Diet Coke ready for tomorrow night's debate. So our next guest, he is an election analyst, senior elections analyst for 538.com. They are right more often than being wrong, and they have looked at the field, the entire field. Trump's not going to be there. I thought for sure. Now, he's going to do something with Tucker Carlson on Twitter to counter-program. I thought for sure he would suck all the oxygen out of the news cycle tomorrow late afternoon and show up in Fulton County just to stick it to Fox. But apparently he's not going in there until Thursday. Anyway, they have analyzed those that are not going to make the stage tomorrow night in Milwaukee at 8 o'clock our time. And last night, the Republican National Committee announced that only 8 candidates will be on stage for the first primary debate up in Milwaukee tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And ahead of the announcement, the folks at 538 have taken a look at the qualification situations and found that beyond those 8 contenders, there's an argument to be made that at least 3 should be on stage with the others. Let's start there with Geoffrey Skelley, senior elections analyst for 538.com. In your opinion, your analysis, who has a legitimate complaint?
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I think the candidate probably with the biggest complaint is Perry Johnson, the businessman from Michigan. Looking at it, coming into the final day, we kind of thought he had the polls, or at least potentially, to qualify. And he said he had the donors. So assuming he wasn't, assuming he was right about that, it seemed like he had made the stage. But he's now claiming that the RNC told him that one of the 4 polls that seemingly had given him qualification did not meet their standards. So that's to me, maybe the person with the biggest complaint.
I know that Perry Johnson from Michigan has spent an extraordinary amount of his own money trying to get elected to a couple of different offices. What was his background? I don't know much about Perry Johnson.
Yeah, so he calls himself the quality guru. And so he's been focused on quality control, essentially, in products. So with Johnson and his political background, he is not very well known. So that was definitely a hang up. And to be clear, he wasn't included in a lot of polls. So that was an issue. Because, if pollsters ask about you, it tends to be easier to actually get 1% in a poll. If they don't ask about you, it's a little harder.
Yeah, that seems to be tough.
Yeah. So, Johnson, in a way, seemingly had threaded the needle on polls by having basically almost half the polls he was named in actually coming through for him. But in the end, one of them didn't count. So that's sort of the issue for him. And, he and Larry Elder, who is another candidate who claimed he made the stage, are apparently suing the RNC. We'll see how that pans out, but obviously there's not a lot of time until tomorrow night.
Yeah, Larry is a L.A. talk show host. He's run for president previously. Then you have the Miami mayor that has not made it. But I thought for sure that the former congressman from Texas, Will Hurd, who has a pretty strong message and a great background, I thought for sure he would have made the stage, and yet he's missed as well. Does he have a complaint?
I think for Hurd, it's a little tougher. He was lacking one national poll to meet one of the paths that the RNC gave candidates to qualify via polls. So for him, that was a difficulty. Francis Suarez was in a similar boat. He was 1 poll short, although it did look like there might have been one national poll released on Monday afternoon that might have helped Suarez, but apparently that did not count, or it was from a not very well-known Republican pollster. I mean, I'd actually never heard of the pollster, I don't know. We were kind of wondering, is the RNC going to consider this? And apparently they didn't, or what have you. So, it's a tough situation because you need a poll at 1%, and there's 3 national polls at 1%, or 2 national polls at 1%, and then 2 polls from the early states.
Well, plus the other problem is these guys are required to sign the RNC loyalty pledge, which is ripped from the history books like Senator Joe McCarthy here. And I know Will Hurd said absolutely not. Christie says, sure, I'll sign it. I'll just ignore it, similar to Trump. Are they holding these guys tomorrow night to signing the loyalty pledge?
Well, it seems like to make the stage, you had to sign it because Hurd, I mean, that would have been an issue even if Hurd had gotten the poll that he needed because he said he wouldn't sign it. Donald Trump says, I'm not going to sign it. Of course, he also, maybe he would have signed it in some other universe where the race were closer. But since he has such a big lead, I don't know if you can say it's all about the pledge. But someone like Asa Hutchinson, who's been very critical of Trump, the former Arkansas governor, he was willing to sign it, even though he's criticized the pledge concept, as has Chris Christie. So you do have some candidates who are sort of more vocally anti-Trump in sort of their footing in this race who have signed it, essentially saying either I don't believe Trump will be the nominee in the end, or Trump, I will sign it and give it as much credit as like Trump has given previous pledges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Geoffrey Skelley is here, senior elections analyst at 538.com. Final question. As of today, how far ahead of DeSantis is Trump? 30 ticks plus?
Well, it's been close to 40 recently, and at the moment it's like 38-ish points. In national polls, I should say, in our national primary polling average at 538.com. In state polls, it's a little closer. Trump is polling sort of in the low 40s to low 50s in most of the early state polling we've seen. And that makes sense to some extent in the sense that early state voters are paying more attention to this because they have to make a decision sooner than other people.
Have you ever seen anybody in history with this kind of lead at this point in the race?
Well, I think we've seen candidates with it, but we haven't seen a former president running again in modern times. Like that is not this is an unparalleled situation in that sense. We've seen candidates with very large leads. I mean, Al Gore had a very large lead early in the 2000 cycle, was sort of unopposed within the party, except then Bill Bradley, the New Jersey senator, ran against him. Caused him a little kerfuffle maybe in New Hampshire. It was close there back in 2000, but Gore won every contest. So, we have seen dominating leads. Hillary Clinton early in the 2016 cycle had
Jeb Bush, Scott Walker. Everybody's a darling for a day before they just vaporize.
Yeah, those guys did not have a lead on this scale.
Right.
It's a really difficult position for the other Republican contenders to figure out how to sort of lower Trump's position in the race, but do it without alienating a lot of Republican voters who like Trump.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Geoffrey, thanks. We'll read more at 538.com. Thank you for popping on. I'd love to get your analysis post-debate if you're available.
I'd be happy to chat.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Have a great afternoon.
Sure thing. You too.
Should someone have to have a government-issued license to drive a car?
Hell no.
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
So great.
The license to drive? I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive.
Boo. It's like the Coliseum. Are you not entertained?